Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Make Progress, 10 years of moving forward. Please welcome to the stage Generation Progress Executive Director, Ann Johnson.
Good morning and welcome to Make Progress 2015. We're so excited to have you all here join with us today as we celebrate our 10th anniversary. And it's particularly cool for me to be standing here because I was actually in the audience 10 years ago. As a young organizer in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I had done my first political campaign, and I was working at a startup nonprofit trying to build a youth campaigning and training organization. I received a travel scholarship to attend the first ever Campus Progress National Conference. It was actually my first trip to Washington, D.C., and I remember being a little bit nervous, a little bit overwhelmed, and a little bit lost. But I was sitting in this room like this, and I listened to President Bill Clinton and other amazing organizers and activists talk about their work. But I think what was the most powerful and certainly the most memorable part of that day for me was a student activist named Stephanie. She had lost over 100 members of her family in the Rwandan genocide in 1994. She was working with the Genocide Intervention Network, and she got up to the microphone and she shared her story. And then she called on the audience and the president to always follow our words with action. You could hear a pin drop in the room. And I still run into people today who are at that conference and who remember her and remember that moment when a 19-year-old student went to a microphone and called out everyone in the room, including the president, to do more. From that first conference to today, Campus Progress, now Generation Progress, has been about organizers and activists like Stephanie, lifting up the voices of our generation as a powerful force for change in their communities, in our country, and in the world. From our first event in 2005 to the launch of the It's On Us campaign last year, Generation Progress has been about empowering our generation. We started by supporting campus journalism and created a speakers bureau to bring leaders to college campuses. And we quickly realized that there was an appetite for so much more. We expanded and helped support local advocacy campaigns and helped young people develop policy solutions for the challenges that they face. Today, there are more than 1,200 of you in this room, and we've got national campaigns focused on student debt and college affordability, economic stability for our generation, gun violence prevention, criminal justice reform, LGBT equality, and prevention of campus sexual assault. In the past year, over 4,000 young people have participated in events, summits, roundtables, and trainings through Generation Progress and our networks. Many of you helped lead those sessions, so thank you for all of your work. We've reached over 500 million unique Twitter accounts. We've published 1,250 pieces of content. We've authored 55 policy reports. We've produced video content, and with our partners, we've produced over 200 PSAs. We've organized 650 events with the It's On Us campaign. And we've worked with young leaders in 17 countries to build progressive power for social change. But we've got a lot more work to do. Millennials find themselves tasked with the responsibility of solving a wide range of problems, most of which our generation was too young to create. These issues, both social and economic, range from climate change to immigration reform, equal rights, and economic justice. How we respond to these issues will be the defining mark of our generation. But in 2014, just over 20% of young people voted in federal elections. And in 2012, it was a little over 50%. While millennials volunteer in their communities and organize around issues that matter to them, many don't see political participation, specifically voting, as a viable option for solving problems. Now, there's legitimate frustration with the political system and lack of progress on key issues for our generation. And we often hear from young people things like, politicians are all the same, or it's hard to get information about the candidates and the issues. But to create a more just and equitable society, we need to make the political system, elected representatives, and candidates more responsive to young people. And we need young people to more fully engage in the democratic process. As leaders in our generation, we also need to articulate our vision. Over the past few years, Generation Progress has hosted a series of convenings around the country and worked with local, state, and national leaders in the youth engagement sector to come up with a bold, progressive agenda that reflects the aspirations and values of our generation. We've called this the 2020 Project, calling for reform in areas of social and economic and racial justice. The 2020 Project centers around the idea that the political system should work for millennials instead of the other way around. Changing the stereotypical view of that as millennials as apathetic or disengaged, we recognize that we are actually deeply engaged and passionate about a vast array of issues. But for too long, the voices of millennials have gone underrepresented in Congress and in local and state legislatures and in the laws and policies of our nation. As the most diverse and educated generation in history, it's time to fix that. Together, we can create the country that we want to see. We've got to educate and organize our peers and engage in our democracy. Today is a great way to do that. Learn from the amazing speakers that are here today, meet other progressive activists, and share your work in your community. And Make Progress wouldn't be possible without the 51 partner organizations who are here today. So thank you to all of you for your commitment to the progressive movement and for helping us make this summit a huge success. Later today, you will hear from Secretary Perez. We're so excited that he'll be joining us. We've got a number of incredible members of Congress and senators here, and Vice President Biden will be in the House later today. But now let's get the show on the road. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. She is an amazing leader and a role model for so many of us here in Washington, D.C., and it's a privilege to work for her. So please join me in welcoming the president of the Center for American Progress, Neera Tanden.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Wow, this is a huge crowd. I think this gets bigger and bigger every year. I'm really honored to welcome you here today. It's incredible to see so many young, passionate, progressive activists from around the country, progressive activists and leaders. You know, over the last several weeks, we've seen some amazing changes in the country. Marriage equality is now the law of the land. Something dear to my heart, the Affordable Care Act is actually fully protected. And the Confederate flag came down in South Carolina and is coming down around the country. Now, I know some of these changes seem like they happened lightning fast, but the truth is that they took years to come about, and they came about because activists and leaders, people in their communities, were having conversations, but also desperate to make change around the country. And so I'm really thrilled to be here with you today, because I know that you will be those future activists and leaders who make change in our country, not just tomorrow, but for decades to come. And I'm thrilled to see you here, because this is really just the beginning, definitely not the end of the change we need to see in the country. I'm really looking at this audience. I could not be more optimistic about the future. So I want to add my congratulations to Generation Progress for its amazing 10 years. 10 years of seeking solutions to build a more just and engaged society. And over the last 10 years, Generation Progress has played this critical role in the work we do at the Center for American Progress, because it has really, truly represented the voice of millennials in the country. And if you see over the last few years, the changes we're trying to make, the Affordable Care Act, student debt, having an economy that works for everyone, Generation Progress has been a central leader in those fights. So we'll have important discussions today about the progress we still need to make: gun violence, campus sexual assault, criminal justice reform, and more. But it's important that we recognize that we have made some progress and that Generation Progress has been there. Today, you'll hear from so many leaders: Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand. Yeah, give it up. Give it up for those women leaders. But we'll also hear from other leaders in their community, leaders in localities that are actually making change, leaders in the country. Those are our change makers. And so, again, I really want to say congratulations to Generation Progress, but I again wanted to say congratulations to all of you, because I know that you'll make this country the more perfect union we have all struggled to make it over the last several years. Have a great conference, but again, this is just the beginning. We have years and years of work ahead of us, but I'm confident that we will make the change we want to see. Thank you all very much.
From the world.